And Eduardo, my now co-founder, was very big into automating things. And in the post where I read about this, I think I called it taking your vitamins while you're bleeding. And the basic idea here was he actually had a much stronger vision for how the future would go than I had. Right. He was sort of our customer avatar. He was the guy. ClickMinded now, it's a digital marketing training course for marketers and entrepreneurs, and we could focus on very specific digital marketing tutorials. So like very specific over-the-shoulder walkthroughs on how to launch an email marketing campaign and reduce 99% of errors, or how to add the Google Tag Manager to a WordPress site, right? Something like that. And so we made these investments in a lot of the automation, right? We knew our customer avatars. We really drew them out very specifically, and we created a bunch of these flows for users. So what are all the checklists and templates and cheat sheets we can give them? What are the mini courses we can give them? Like, how do we add a ton of free value to all of these avatars all at once? And it wasn't like the most intuitive thing in the world. It was a little bit risky, but within 4 months, 5 months, it really started to pay off.
Welcome to Show Me the Nuggets, where each week Joe chats with world-class entrepreneurs to find out the key principles, strategies, and processes that lie behind their outstanding achievements. Now, your host, the no-bullshit serial entrepreneur, Joe Troyer.
Hey guys, it's Joe Troyer, and welcome back to another show here at Show Me the Nuggets. And I'm super excited today to be spending this interview with Tommy Griffith. For those of you guys that don't know Tommy, he's the founder of ClickMinded. And guys, my team did some digging and found that he previously worked with and did SEO with some crazy players like Airbnb and PayPal. And he grew ClickMinded from just kind of a little side project and business to earning over 6 figures. And I'm excited to have him on today and just kind of pick his brain. So what's up, Tommy?
Joe, what's going on, man? Thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, 100%. So before we dive deep in today's topic, can you give us a little bit of background on how you got started with ClickMinded?
Yeah, sure. So my story started like a lot of internet marketers by reading 4-Hour Workweek. Are you familiar with 4-Hour Workweek and Tim Ferriss?
Yeah.
Right. So most of your audience, most people listening probably know, but for the uninitiated, the 4-Hour Workweek was a book written in 2007, maybe 2008, written by Tim Ferriss, and it was kind of some of the principles are probably a little out of date now, but the general theory behind it's still pretty strong, which is like he kind of wrote this book that was the catalyst for a lot of people to build remote businesses and build internet businesses and have remote teams and things like that. And I got really excited about this, and I created my first info product after reading his book. So I created a very dorky ebook, and I wrote this ebook and tried to figure out how do I get this to the top of Google. This was before the exact match domain update. And so I did the keyword research, found my primary keyword. It's a really obnoxious story. I started a fraternity in university with I know. I started a fraternity with a bunch of my friends in university. It started as like a joke. And then by the time I left, there was like 100 guys in it. And so after I read 4-Hour Workweek, opened up the keyword tool, and there's like 1,500 people a month searching for how to start a fraternity, right? So I bought howtostartafraternity.com, wrote a dorky 60-page ebook on how to start a fraternity, and had the keyword in my domain, and it got like 1 backlink and was ranking number 2 in like a week. And I'm like, I'm a genius, right? Like, having not known, later on the exact match domain update, et cetera, et cetera. I basically got lucky. Got really excited about SEO, started a business with a friend of mine shortly after that failed miserably. I was one of these guys, I was very blessed, and my parents paid for college, and I graduated with no debt. And then I ended up putting myself into debt after college, borrowing money from family and friends. So I got interested in SEO and trying to work on this business, but it didn't work. It went really bad. Really miserable. Came home like tail between my legs, knocking on the door like, hey mom, hey dad, can I have a spot on the couch again, kind of thing. But it was just kind of right place, right time. And PayPal was hiring an SEO manager, I had been working on it for 2 years, even though I'd failed miserably, and I was 24 years old and ended up managing search engine optimization at PayPal, which is kind of crazy.
Wow. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, and so while I was at PayPal, like I had incurred all this debt from this side project or this business I was telling you about, and that was the genesis of ClickMinded. I was like, okay, I have a job, I'm back, I'm working at it, but how do I go after this debt that I put myself into, right? And ClickMinded was probably like idea number 15. I tried a lot of different things, but it just ended up being the thing that worked. My boss had asked me to teach an SEO course to my colleagues in marketing at PayPal. It went pretty well, and I ended up turning that into a physical, in-person teaching business. So like Saturday mornings, would rent a co-working space in San Francisco, kind of 9 to 5, like all you can SEO, right? So just like nerd out on search engines. Entrepreneurs and marketers would come in, and I would like we'd nerd out on title tags all day, right? on a Saturday. That particular business was actually a terrible business. It was just like was not generating any revenue. It doesn't scale. It's like very, very manual. But that ended up being the right place, right time with this online course kind of renaissance we're in now. So it was 2012. I was like this teaching offline, and then Udemy had suddenly taken off. Are you familiar with Udemy, the online course marketplace?
Yep, 100%.
Yeah, and so that was sort of the first phase, is like turn this offline course I had into an online course. And from there it grew. I kept working on it while managing SEO at PayPal and Airbnb. And then 2 years ago, I went full time on it.
Okay, great. So you just dropped a little nugget in there. You were working at Airbnb doing SEO as well, right?
Yeah,
okay, great.
That's right. Yeah, so 2 years managing SEO at PayPal, and then 4 years managing SEO at Airbnb.
So were you around when Airbnb was like implementing all their growth hack strategies? I mean, they were crazy, like the stuff that they were doing and coming up with. You read the stories, like, man.
Yeah, so yeah, the growth team was the official growth team was founded a few months before I got there, and was only one guy for a while, Gustav. But the stories you're probably talking about are with Nate, the co-founder. I don't know what the official position from the company is on some of those things, so people can go look for themselves. I can't speak to all those, but yeah, it was part of the early members of the growth team working specifically on SEO.
Yeah, I mean, at that stage in a company, you can obviously be a little more risk averse and, really go for it. Being the stage that they're at now, probably shouldn't be making decisions like that, but crazy stories. So I bet it was cool just sitting around and watching those moves happen and unfold. So
yeah, I mean, it was wild, man. Like I've told a couple people this, but like the first week I joined, the company was subpoenaed for their data by the state of New York. And the last week I joined, I worked on a Super Bowl ad, and Beyonce was staying in an Airbnb. Like it was wild. I mean, my friends didn't know what it was when I joined, and everyone knew what it was. After, there was probably 100-something people when I joined, and it was like 2,500 people when I left. It was pretty nuts.
So you stumbled into ClickMinded. It wasn't working run-in workshops, so you took it to an online course. Did you end up using Udemy or somebody like that, or did you host it yourself from the beginning? Or tell us about that transition. What happened next?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And so I'm a huge online course nerd. I'm a massive fan of online courses. I think they can solve a lot of problems. I think there's so much room in this for anyone that's interested in online learning. I think the graduate to go on a little bit of a tangent, I think the graduate school system in this country is the most fraudulent, fake BS thing that needs to be destroyed, and it represents billions of dollars for entrepreneurs to take. All of it can be killed with online courses, or the vast majority of it. Maybe not the rocket scientists and the pediatricians, but the vast majority of it.
Definitely.
But yeah, so started with Udemy, and then sort of transitioned to my own platforms. I've tried so many different learning management systems, and the course has evolved a ton since. So I started as a physical, in-person, offline SEO course, and then an online course just on SEO. And now we teach. We have 7 different courses with a number of different instructors, and we're kind of expanding from there.
Right.
But the online course sort of like the transition has been crazy because in 2012 it was not that easy to launch an online course. I don't know how familiar you are with the
Yeah.
space, but
100% very familiar. Yeah.
yeah.
It's not easy.
Yeah, for sure. And it's become, it was certainly not easy in 2012. It's become a little bit easier as time has gone on, but there was a lot of pitfalls I had in getting that. I mean, every single WordPress learning management system, user credentials, like uploading Wistia video and like
Yep.
encoding the stuff myself. And, one WordPress developer changes one plugin and everything breaks. It's just so
Yeah.
bad.
Yep.
So it was very tough at the beginning.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, there's definitely a learning curve. But I think you're right that I think online learning can solve a lot of traditional education problems these days. And I keep pushing on my students who are a lot of agencies, right? And a lot of them run very niche focused agencies. So they're going after, one vertical, dentists, right? They're going after optometrists. And that's the way that they've been able to scale, is by staying in one vertical and building the systems and processes and then just staying in their lane, right? And not veering out of it. But I've been talking to a lot of them now and pushing on them to really understand that they have a big opportunity, I think, when it comes to online learning. And why isn't their front end offering a course, right? Why isn't it a mid-ticket or a higher ticket course showing people the systems and processes that they've spent years building out and perfecting and tweaking? Why doesn't that become the front end? And then the done for you is like an ultra premium.
For sure.
Like you could double that business overnight.
For sure, absolutely. That's really interesting that you brought that up. We actually just created it's a course for our users. It's free, but it is exactly that.
Yep.
We just exposed our back end and just show like, hey, we've been working on this for 8 years now. Here's exactly how we do it, and we're getting feedback on it now, and people love it. So it's a really good point.
That's awesome. So my team, when doing research, was looking through your guys' stories, and it said that you and your partner invested in some business automation and some systems and processes when the business was actually losing money. So what made you kind of make that decision? Where were you at mindset wise, and tell us what was happening?
Yeah. So the whole story was kind of wild. I was I was very hesitant. ClickMinded ended up generating more revenue than my salary in the third year I was working on it, but I didn't end up leaving until like the fifth or sixth year. And for a lot of people that sounds a little crazy, but I just I was in a situation where I really liked my job, and I actually felt like fairly unaccomplished at that point at the job. I wanted to stay, right? And so I ended up really growing it a lot. And I was one of these guys where this whole story of like, the digital nomad scene and all that, like I really took the bait on this one, man. Like I was on Instagram way too much, like, looking at the most beautiful people I've ever seen in my life in Bali, drinking coconuts, the laptop on the beach. And I tripped for this hard. And one massive mistake I made, I still loved my job, and I had friends in San Francisco, and I was dating someone and all that. So I really didn't want to leave, but I was kind of over the city. I got really over the city, San Francisco. I really wanted to leave and leave the city. And so I was preparing my escape to like go abroad. And I did myself a huge disservice by taking too long to make the jump, right? And I was planning way too hard, and my expectations for myself were bananas, right? I was looking at these, these Instagram clowns with their filters on, and like it just set my expectations so insane. So when I finally left Airbnb, did 4 years there, I finally left Airbnb, and I decided to expand the product. So we were going to go from an SEO course to 7 different types of digital marketing content, right? I wanted to go head to head with universities that are offering this stuff as a master's degree, coding boot camps, engineering boot camps, and anyone kind of offering this as a digital marketing training as a service. And like when I did that, I went in, developed this entire curriculum, spent about 15, I wrote a blog post kind of documenting all this the last 2 years, but with all the revenue numbers and stuff. spend about $15,000 upgrading the whole course and filming all this new content. And I arrived in Bali and it was miserable. Like I got there, I was robbed by the police on my first day. I got food poisoning. The footage we had just filmed for all these new courses, it was raining really hard on the warehouse we rented. And so all the audio was shot. And so I'm like, I'm in Bali. I'd just been robbed. I was throwing up from food poisoning. I'm holding this external hard drive with like messed up audio that I thought was completely shot. And I'm just looking up at the sky, just like, what am I doing? Like, why am I here? Right. And eventually started to recover. My expectations were a little wild, but one of the ways I recovered was by bringing on a co-founder very late into the game, which was like a little bit controversial to a lot of people. I was like 4 or 5 years into a business. We had hit 6 figures. It was working. Brought on a co-founder, a guy I had worked with before, and who's absolutely amazing. But one of the things, so this is a very long-winded answer to your question. One of the things he kind of recommended was we did this big launch. It worked really well, and then everything started to fail afterwards, right? Like traffic started to drop. We got a bunch of refunds because the product was in like a V1. Just sort of everything went wrong. And we were at this crossroads where I wanted to fix much more trivial stuff, like, the very kind of micro optimizations, like let's make the checkout button red instead of green, or these kinds of like sort of things. Yep. And Eduardo, my now co-founder, was very big into automating things. And in the post where I read about this, I called it taking your vitamins while you're bleeding. And the basic idea here was he actually had a much stronger vision for how the future would go than I had, right? He was sort of our customer avatar. He was the guy. ClickMinded now, it's a digital marketing training course for marketers and entrepreneurs, and we could focus on very specific digital marketing tutorials. So like very specific over-the-shoulder walkthroughs on how to launch an email marketing campaign and reduce 99% of errors, or how to add the Google Tag Manager to a WordPress site, right? Something like that. Yep. And so we made these investments in a lot of the automation, right? We knew our customer avatars. We really like drew them out very specifically, and we created a bunch of these flows for users. So what are all the checklists and templates and cheat sheets we can give them? What are the mini courses we can give them? Like, how do we add a ton of free value to all of these avatars all at once? And it wasn't like the most intuitive thing in the world. It was a little bit risky, but within 4 months, 5 months, it really started to pay off.
Gotcha. So completely different mindsets there. And that's interesting, obviously, when you have a co-founder, right? Like you're not the one just running and gunning anymore. So at that point, how long, I'm curious, did you have your co-founder?
Yeah, so Eduardo and I, it was a little bit different because Eduardo was like an apprentice sort of at first. Okay. So he was sort of working with me just to learn. And then after 6 months, he went off to work for a different company. And then I basically roped him back in. And that was the moment in time, like when I was throwing up in Bali and like miserable and like, on the ropes, I emailed him like, hey man, what are you doing? Because I'm in a huge mess right here. And how you feeling, right? But we had, basically the idea was I told him the situation. He helped us started to work on a bunch of stuff. And then the first launch we did, I just sat down and said, how you feeling about your job? How you feeling about this? How do you feel about everything? Do you want to be the co-founder on this thing? Because I think one of the things that was good at was I was pretty good at the first round, getting the product to like 0 to the first 6 figures. But he's much better at the operations, the long-term customer avatar stuff, like a lot of the growing something that had just been started, right? And it ended up working that way.
So how did you find Eduardo?
So this actually is, you talk about nuggets. I could give you a nugget here. Sure. I taught at a, and this is part of why I'm so grumpy about graduate school, but I taught at a university in San Francisco for 4 years. I taught a summer elective while I was working at Airbnb. And it was a digital marketing elective for master's degree students. And at the end of every elective, I would offer up an apprenticeship to one student, to one university student. I highly recommend finding a university, and specifically, I don't know why this is going to sound a little bit strange, but I found that that like foreigners and immigrants and people of second generation families have this like work ethic that is, I say this as like a sixth generation American that's just way more nose to the grind than Americans, right? Something happens, and I say this as an American, something happens. It's that like immigrant hustle, right? And this was an international university, and yeah, I highly recommend finding your apprentice at a university that has a lot of international students, because for whatever reason, there's like a natural hunger there that really worked for me.
Yeah, so there's a guy called Bedros Keuilian. Have you heard that name?
No, I haven't.
So he's a best-selling author. He just came out with a book. It's called Man Up. Definitely a fantastic book, but he calls it the immigrant edge because he's an immigrant. And a lot of people that he hires or that he interviews and that he has do trainings with him are immigrants, and he's found the same thing. So it's interesting that you say that.
That's fascinating that someone else has started to figure this out too. Yes, it's first and second generation. Something about it. It's like this hunger, and something happens after the third generation where people are eating too much ice cream and watching too much Netflix or something like that. I don't know. I don't know what's going on.
Netflix and chill. Yeah,
exactly.
All right. So how would you advise somebody like me, right, that didn't have your background, right, find somebody then, for example, right? Like I'm not teaching, right? So get them from an international school. I get that, but how would you approach that if you were in my shoes? I'm curious, and you had to redo that.
That's interesting. I mean, one other way, because I actually did acquire some apprentices before I was teaching there, was speaking at the universities, right? Yep. So finding different electives and courses where you have relevant overlap, and being willing to, if you can go in and speak, that's best. But another way to do it would be just emailing them and emailing the professor and letting them know, hey, we have this opportunity.
Okay.
Another way, a kind of interesting backdoor way was, and this really, I bootstrapped my entire business off of this, meetup.com. Meetup.com, I think, is one of the most underrated ways to start a side project for a number of reasons. And my first 100 users came from meetup.com. The biggest reason, I think, is that internet marketers hate leaving their basement. Like internet marketers would much rather send 10,000 emails than pick up the phone once, right? And I ended up starting the San Francisco SEO meetup in 2011. Meetup.com does, and this is still the case today, they do all the work for you. So you create the topic, they email everyone in the city that's interested in that topic. And then you can this is the single fastest way to bootstrap an email list. You can easily get your first 100 emails through Meetup. But I also ended up hosting these meetups and found one student who started an internet marketing like interest group at the university. I found him, and every time I did a meetup, I would send it to him, and he would blast it to his people, and all the college kids would show up. So that's kind of another interesting way to do it, is using Meetup to get those university students into the door.
Love it. Yeah, those are three great takeaways. Just to recap for everybody. So finding an apprentice through speaking at universities, emailing the professor, or running the meetups, and then trying to get somebody from the university, right, to help promote the meetup. Yeah, that's fantastic.
Exactly.
That's a nugget, right? Show me the nuggets, man. That's it.
They're the nuggets. There they are.
There are the nuggets. All right, good stuff. Let's get back to automation. What were the first things that you and Eduardo really decided to kind of prioritize and think about in terms of automation?
Yeah, so the biggest help for us here was actually the transitioning everything over to Drip, and Brennan Dunn has a I'm not sure if you're familiar with him, but yeah, he's really got he has this drip mastery course that really lays out how you can automate everything. There's been actually, everyone's gotten, to be frank, pretty grumpy with drip the last year. They've had some problems. They have some problems with pricing and some outages and things like that. And it looks like there's other tools like ConvertKit that are starting to roll out a lot of these features. So whether or not drip is going to be the go-to source going forward, I'm not sure. But the basic concept is finding a sort of centralized CRM to make sure all your workflows exist in one place, and laying out, first of all, being really rock solid on your customer avatars, and then laying out journeys for them. So just to rattle off a bunch of tools if you want to go into the weeds on this, drip is sort of where we centralize all of our users, right? We have 3 customer avatars, entrepreneurs, in-house marketers at larger companies, and consultants or agencies that want to train up their teams. And we have 7 different topics, right? SEO, paid ads, content marketing, social media, email marketing, Google Analytics, and sales funnels. And so you could be any one of these combinations. You can be, right, a consultant or an agency interested in content marketing, or an entrepreneur interested in SEO. And we sort of have journeys for all these, right? And so we're using WordPress as our core sites. Teachable installed on a subdomain is our learning management system. Drip is the backend that manages everything. Zapier is the duct tape that duct tapes everything together.
100%.
And we also got a lot of mileage out of mini courses. So the basic idea is every course is like 4 to 6 hours long. We use world-class experts that do this stuff every day, right? So our social media course is taught by the former head of social media at Airbnb. The content marketing course is taught by the content strategist from Lyft. But we allow roughly 30 minutes to an hour of the course to be viewed as a mini course. The way we do it is when you enroll, we say, okay, hey, you're enrolled in this mini course. You have 7 days to complete it. And we update these mini courses in the future. They have templates and cheat sheets. We keep them up to date. If you complete it in 7 days, you get lifetime access to it. You'll get all the updates as things go on. You'll have access to it forever. If you don't, we rescind your access and you'll never get it again. And this has been a very powerful carrot for us because people do it. They have 7 days to complete a 30-minute course. It's fairly reasonable. But if they're not, and we're pretty strict about it. And so if they're not in, that's fine, but they'll lose access. But if they actually want to commit and do it, of course, they complete it. They get about 30 minutes of the product, and then we give them an offer shortly after. And of course, the conversion rate increases significantly. They've seen 30 minutes of the product. They've seen 30 minutes of the teacher. They're much more comfortable with it. And so we found that to be very powerful, is not only do you give them a preview of the product, but also you force them to complete it by taking it away if they don't, right? That's worked for us.
Yeah, that's great. It's forced consumption, right? So people do that these days, but I don't think they do it quite like you. I see a lot of people doing like challenges, right, to force consumption, right? So they get somebody to pay $7 or something for a challenge so that they're committed, and then you look at the consumption and like the success rate of the people during that challenge, and it's really, really high because everybody's on board at one time to do one thing. So that's really interesting. I've never thought of doing that for a course.
Yeah, and it's worked for us. There's just it's just too easy to, people are just bombarded with free offers for everything, right? And we saw a lot of value, like, hey, if you're actually serious about this, that's fine. It's free, but you have to finish it in a week. And if anyone who's actually serious about it could finish it in a week, and if you're not, that's fine too. You can go. But it's
a half an hour, right? I mean,
it's a half an hour over 7 days. Yeah. But it's just enough to get them to commit, right? And so it's just a very clear, like, do you want to do this or not? Yes or no? Like, complete it in 7 days.
That's great. So I'm sure you find a lot more people consuming your content and getting involved, and then you're ultimately converting more cold traffic into customers at the end of the day.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, our model's pretty standard. I mean, all of our blog posts and YouTube videos and things like that are the top of funnel things. We almost always have a custom content upgrader lead magnet for each one of those pieces of content. We know the topic type based on that, right? So we have a bunch of content about SEO, a bunch of content about email marketing, right? We have templates and cheat sheets and downloadables associated with those. And then once you grab the email address there, we're pushing the user into the mini course. So we know what they're topically interested in. And then whenever we get them to commit to the mini course, they have 7 days to complete it from there.
I'm curious in that funnel, it makes a whole lot of sense. How do you tie in though the 3 different avatars? So you brought up the 3 avatars. Where are you tagging that, or where are you getting them to self-identify when they take the course, or?
Yeah, this is a great question. So we're using, it's also Brennan Dunn's tool, Right Message. I don't know if you're familiar with this. Yeah, it's a very, very cool tool. The basic idea is you can give people a simple prompt, either a little nag on the bottom right hand of the screen or in the welcome email, and you just get them to self-identify. You just get them to say, who are you? Why are you here? One of these 3 options. And what's amazing about Right Message is it's basically a container you can use on the site to change out copy based on the avatar, right? So, if the headline, we'll take a headline and it'll be massively grow your agency if they're an agency or a consultant, right? Train up your team if you're an in-house marketer or something like that. So that's really helpful. The other piece of it that's really helpful as well is once we know who you are in our CRM, which is Drip, we don't show them the same CTA, which is really helpful. So, for example, if they're on a top of funnel page and they're not a user, we give them a lead magnet. But if they're on a top of funnel page and we already have their email, well, that CTA changes from the lead magnet to start the mini course, right? And so there's kind of no wasted space. It's like you cut up your site based on here are the calls to action, right? And kind of who are they and where are they in the funnel? And you can just sort of swap all of those out. So it's an incredibly efficient way to do it. You centralize all your copy and all your calls to action in one place, and then you just rotate them out, and the conversion rates are just bananas on all of these because they're so targeted. You know what I mean?
So the CTAs are targeted, but the sales pages, I'm guessing, probably aren't so much, maybe, right? Or have you went to the kind of 10th degree and customized every sales page, addressing them as the 3 avatars and follow-up sequences for the 3 avatars, or where have you kind of drawn the line? Because you could go down that path, right? Like
Joe, you're 10 steps ahead of me on this one, man. Yeah, you can't. If you wanted to go nuts with this, that's what's really cool about Right Message is you could go nuts with it. We have a little bit too many permutations to do that right now. So we just went for the big ones, which is like the big headline and the big call to action on each page, and saw a massive lift from there. The next phase is probably, each individual bullet point, like based on each customer avatar. But there's just other kind of bigger things for us right now. But we're just going for the big ones to start.
So the big wins so far have been automation and the trials, kind of forcing consumption, getting people to go through it and get some value out of it, and then hitting them with an offer. Are you doing are you hitting them with like a kind of a 3-day sale and a discount on the course or something at that point to try to get everybody to take an action? Or how do you go from you just went through the mini course to the full course? What's that look like?
Yeah, that's exactly it. And we're playing with a bunch of stuff all the time. So if you go to check out the site, you might get different things all the time. But yeah, the basic idea is preview the product, and then once you have, we'll give you some type of discount in order to enroll, right?
Gotcha.
And then once you enroll in that individual product, we say, hey, did you like this? By the way, there's 6 more other courses over here. Are these interesting too, right? And just kind of continue to push more content.
Have you tried putting like a hard stop with that urgency and scarcity, so to speak? Like you only give 7 days, right, for the mini course. Do you do the same? Are you like really, really harsh about the upgrade then too?
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, I forgot to mention that. Yes, anytime we offer a discount or a sale, you are 10 steps ahead of me, man. Anytime we offer a discount or anything like that, that is the beauty of using Drip, and we also use Thrive Ultimatum.
Okay.
Every offer actually is a hard stop. So users are getting them at custom times, but they really actually do get locked out, right? So that's been the key. Is unfortunately we have to be a jerk to some people, but it doesn't work if everyone knows you're soft on it, right? And so like we really do have to lock people out when we do it. So they'll complete the mini course and then they'll have a 24-hour window to enroll at a discount.
Any other big things in terms of automation? And that's great takeaways, and those are some good nuggets, man.
Yeah, let me think. We have, I mean, just in general, like we're obsessed with SOPs, which stands for Standard Operating Procedure for the uninitiated. It's just a fancy way to say like a really comprehensive checklist. We actually
a really fancy way to say we don't reinvent the wheel every single time this comes up.
Right, exactly. And this was all Eduardo. Eduardo's like the process guy, and I'm like the idiot that gets on the microphone and just like sings and dances like a monkey, right? You know what I mean? But we wanted a product for ourselves to do this. We started creating SOPs for ourselves, and then we turned it into a product. So we have a product called the SOP Library. It's just this archive of digital marketing SOPs. And it's a product for our users. They can brand them, use them for clients and things like that. But we use these all the time in our business, and we are just crazy about the two best books for this are I don't know if you're familiar with Work the System. It's just a book about SOPs, and then the E-Myth is kind of a similar one, but just adding a process around everything. So we got a ton of mileage out of things like in Help Scout when we get tickets. Email templates, right? We almost never write a personal email unless it's absolutely required. It's like a user asking a specific question. But if we ever think we're going to get a question twice, it's a template. And so those are like quasi automations. The basic idea is like the whole company mindset is like try and never do something twice ever. And it's brutal at the beginning. It's so annoying at the beginning. It's so painful at the beginning. And then like within 6 months, it's like the greatest possible thing you could ever do. It ends up being very valuable.
Any thoughts or pushback on things maybe that you think shouldn't be automated, right? Anything that maybe you've tried, failed, or things you just like, we're going to leave that as is?
Yeah, I mean, I still do. When people have personal questions, I answer, and I usually answer within 30 minutes, and it's not because of a policy or anything like that. I'm just a nerd that's always on my phone or my laptop, and people do think like, oh my God, how did you reply so quickly? So that has been cool. There's kind of a personal touch to whenever it's absolutely necessary.
So if one of the rules or triggers don't grab it, or somebody else doesn't respond, comes to you and you just knock it out real quick.
Yeah, knock it out, and I just have fun with it too, because like we like our users, and like we understand a lot of their problems, and sometimes it's fun to like poke fun at them and like just treat them like you're their best friend, and they kind of can't believe it, right? That you're getting that personal touch. So that was sort of cool. And yeah, I can't really think of too many. I mean, we try and automate as much as we can. Tell
us about your internal tool called the Ring.
Yeah.
What the heck is the Ring?
Yeah, so it's basically just what I was describing just now. The Ring, and I have a blog post, maybe we can link up in the show notes, that describes like the last 2 years. But it's just this automation flow around in Drip, kind of inspired by Brennan Dunn's Drip Mastery course. But yeah, the basic idea is we know what you're interested in and who you are when you opt in. And the idea is the total possibility, like the idea is we've created all these sort of flows for users, but it almost never runs out, right? So let's say, you Google like, social media content calendar template, and you come to our site, we're ranking in Google, and you want the template from us. We know you're interested in social media, and we'll hammer you with a ton of value over a few weeks and try and get you into the mini course. And let's say you take the mini course and everything, and you get the offer, but you don't enroll. We'll actually drop you out of that flow and take you back to the top. It's like a circle, right? That's why it's called the Ring. We take you back to the top, and then we'll test other types of content whether or not you're interested in, email marketing overview, right? Google Analytics overview, something like that. And when you take the bait, when you click one, that triggers off a whole automation. So like you've shown interest in it, and you'll go down the sequence again, value, mini course, offer. And if you don't take it, you go back up and we start prodding again and kind of testing again. So we'll get your email address, and you may be interested in one particular topic, but we'll keep testing different topics on you for, I think our maximum now is almost a year.
Wow.
Right, with all the flows we have. So we basically had to create like 50 or so pieces of really great content, but they're all positioned in a way where they're everything's part of a flow.
Okay. And so you said there's a bunch of this on the blog too. We'll link up to this in the show notes for the ring, right?
Yep, sure. I can include a link to that. Yep.
Okay, cool. And then is this something that you teach more in depth with your SOPs and everything inside of one of your courses too?
Yep. We have all that in there as well. The other piece too that a lot of people are interested in is, and a bunch of people do this now, but we got really good at being really efficient with content we create. I know you had a guest on that talked about this as well on your show, but so like we would create an SOP, right, on a particular topic, and either we wanted it or it had search volume or something like that, and then I would create a YouTube video explaining that SOP, and I would go through step by step on how to do that, right? And then we would transcribe that YouTube video with a service like rev.com, right? So transcribe everything. And then we would take that transcription and turn it into a blog post, right? And so that would be a blog post with the YouTube video embedded on the top. Then we take that blog post and turn it into an email, right? And so that becomes an email, right? So we have one SOP that gets so much mileage. It's part of our SOP library, and then it's a YouTube video that ranks, and then it's a blog post that ranks, and then it's an email that pushes into the mini course, right? And so a lot of people, like, they're just not as thoughtful about their content marketing plan, right? And it's just like they get out of the shower and they're like, I'm going to write about, vegan donuts today or whatever it is. But if you're just a little bit more thoughtful up front, you can get so much mileage out of one piece of content, and it's ended up being really valuable for us.
So how long does it take you to create an SOP, right? And then do your video? So for me, it takes me a long time to create a process, right? So like I know for me, that's been one of my bottlenecks is I throw out a lot of content, but most of my stuff is more off the cuff, kind of let me build something for you on the fly based upon users' requests. So I'm getting things that they want and need, which end up having search volume, but I'm starting that way and just kind of on the spot. Like I'll get on an AMA and I'll unmute the person and I'll work out a system on the fly just because it's easier for me than starting from scratch. I feel like with no deadline, like it would take me a month, right? Like I would just spend way too much time on it. Like thoughts on that, I guess, or how should my mindset change?
Yeah, you're 100% right. I am wired the exact same way as you, and so like individual requests and exceptions and things like that. Yes, like a user asked for, and then another user asked for, and then another user asked for. It's like, let's do it right now, right? I get that, urgency and things like that. But we had a ton of success around basically having like content sprints. So like not kind of always doing it, but setting aside time. We're like, okay, these 2 weeks, everyone stop doing everything, and we're going to blast out 55 SOPs. And they take a really, really, really long time. Our SOPs, the smallest ones are probably 5 pages, and the longest ones are probably 35 pages. I mean, 30, like they're very, very long. We keep screenshots updated and things like that. They take a long time to do well. But so you can't, if you just do them and you're constantly doing them and you don't have a deadline, I agree with you, it doesn't work. So we sat down, it's like 2 weeks, who's doing the SOPs, who's doing the filming, who's doing the editing, who's doing the rev.com stuff, right? And it's like, everyone has to do it. You sprint, you do it. It feels like you just gave birth to a child, and then you move on, right? That's kind of how we do it.
Okay. Yeah, man, that's crazy. 2 weeks, 55 SOPs, man, that's nuts. Crazy. But I mean, if that's all that you think about, you block out all the noise, obviously, one big sprint, like you said, that makes a whole lot of sense. And then you got your content calendar and your email calendar filled for, a good amount of time, obviously.
Yeah, it depends on your business, but if you're really diligent and put in the extra effort about keyword research up front, and then
Yep.
you allocate a time to be like a content sprint, and you really
Yep.
have your plan down, even if you're going to fumble, of course, at the beginning, but you really can like front load all the work, and it just plays beautifully for a year or two, right? I mean, it depends on your business, but it can really be
Yep.
very helpful for future planning.
100%. So where do you draw the line on free content and paid content? I know as a user, somebody watching this, if they could chat in right now, they'd be like, yeah, where is that line? It sounds like there isn't one, right? Like that's getting deep, but where do you draw that line?
Yeah, this is a really good question. Are you familiar with Ramit Sethi? I will teach you to be rich. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I love this guy. First of all, he's an amazing like personal finance guy, but I think he's very sneakily, or maybe not so sneakily now, one of the best internet marketers in the world. I mean, he's incredible.
Yep.
Very, very good copywriting, psychology, all this kind of stuff. But I love his model, which is, I don't know if he still says this, but he said it a while ago, which is like 98% of everything I do is free. And then the 2% is for the paid products and like the people who want the results kind of faster, right? And that's the way we do it as well. Probably 95% of everything we create is free. Content, tutorials, walkthroughs, emails, templates, checklists, cheat sheets, and mini courses. And our basic model is, all this stuff is free. There's a lot of tire kickers, a lot of people that don't enroll, of course. And we say, but if you want the results faster, or if you're trying to train up a whole team, go for the paid product. And our model is unlimited lifetime access and free updates for life. So it's a one-time fee, and then anytime we push updates to the course, you get those forever. So some people appreciate that. They don't want to keep up to date on their own. They want us to keep their SOPs up to date, right? And so
100%.
One-time fee for one user, they love it. I've also found that, to be frank, it's usually the noobs that are really protective of their content. Like they think they have a secret, and they think that they got to monetize that secret, right? And the reality is, you're probably not the first person to think of whatever you've thought of, and it's way more about building your audience and solving your customers' problems, right? So we got a lot more mileage out of giving most of it away for free and saying, by the way, for those that are interested, the paid product, which you can get the results faster or train multiple people, is over here. And we just got a lot more mileage out of it that way.
Yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense, for sure.
How do you deal with that? Like, do you have a line between free and paid? Like, where do you draw?
So my line is between free and paid. I have daily content at the moment. So we're doing a lot of content between podcasts, and then I do a weekly AMA, and then that content gets split up into multiple pieces, right, for the week then, and it gets scheduled ahead and kind of randomized. So right now, like we're probably, I don't know, 120, even 150 days out on content, and that's with daily content. So it's the same kind of process though, Rev though, ultimately, and blog posts, and the difference is I'm not putting as much thought in, so to speak, beforehand. So I run a webinar for an hour, and that's my content, and I get on an hour before and plan through what I'm going to talk about, at least high level. I outline it out, and it gives my brain enough time to kind of think through it. So then like I'm really good then on the fly, like building it out. And I know that it's just 2 hours a week for me, and I've automated my content. But to be honest, it's not, your content's at a completely different level because it's SOP'd out. You know what I mean? It's processes and systems instead of here's how I would handle this unique situation.
Right.
I get a lot more low-hanging fruit traffic, right? But I don't get the big traffic, so to speak. Is the big gap that I see between mine and yours.
Got it. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, and it's not one size fits all either, right? I mean, it sounds like it's even though like there's differences in that, it sounds like it's still fairly low time investment on your side, which that seems like a great return on your time, right?
What do you think are like I'm curious from your point of view, because you work with these different avatars. What do you think are like the core 4, the core 5? What are the main SOPs that it seems like everybody's after, or potentially, if you think it's wrong, should be after, right? That you guys have. Like, what are the big things? And I think that'll probably shock people.
Interesting. You mean like which SOPs? I'm just pulling it up now.
Yeah, like
Which
what gets the
SOPs are
most
the most
love,
used?
what gets the most views, what gets the most shares, like, and then do you think that that is actually the most important, or do you think that it's just like chocolate vegetables? It's what everybody's after, but it's not the thing that they really need.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, I'm just looking at.
Yeah, sorry to
Um,
put you on the spot.
yeah, no, not at all. I'm just yeah, we're just refreshing because we're now up to we have 75 SOPs and growing all the time. And we get requests for them as well. Yeah, I mean, yeah, you know what? There are definitely sexy ones versus ones that are eating your vegetables. So sexy ones are always around social media and content.
Yep. Okay.
Social media content calendar, right? And content planning and a lot of that stuff, which is important, but I guess the big dirty secret is that the sexiest ones are pretty simple. I mean, you can use our SOP. Like we're very happy with our templates and our checklists and our cheat sheets, but you could also just open up a Google sheet and like say like January, February, March, and that'd be the 80/20, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Those are the very like the sexiest ones are usually the most simple.
Yep.
The boring ones are the ones that save your ass, right? So it's things like how to exclude certain types of traffic in Google Analytics, right? Or like setting up conversion events in Google Analytics, right? Verifying that you're tracking subdomains correctly in Google Analytics,
Yeah,
yeah. Like that's so boring. No one cares about that. But if you get that wrong and you have cross subdomain tracking, you're done, right? You're done. And so those are the ones where like everyone just it's kind of like potholes on the highway. Like you're never grateful that there's no potholes, but you're always super pissed when there are, right? It's just
for sure.
the kind of infrastructure ones that everyone just expects it to work, but they don't have any plan in place to get it to work. We're the ones who provide the infrastructure to our users to get it to work, and it's very kind of it's all the ungrateful work, but it's super important. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm curious for you as you do your research, I'm sure you're looking at like what's a good link worthy asset, right? That people would want to link to. What are some other criteria that help you identify what kind of SOPs, right, would be worth building? Like what goes through you and your team's mindset?
Yeah. So are you terms of talking of like for your audience that's listening, how they should create their SOPs, or in terms of just running a business and how you create link worthy assets, or what do you mean?
Yeah, I think the combination of both, right? If they want to take kind of your model and apply it to their roofing marketing business and start creating some SOPs that they're going to give out and they're going to give away for free, like what should their criteria be, right? How should they go about deciding if it's a good SOP or not, right? And if it's a good potential linkable asset or not. Like, what are your thoughts? Obviously, you guys have just done this to a level that I've never seen quite done before, right? And just like that's a lot of output. 75 SOPs you keep updated, like it's a lot.
Yeah, thanks. And we're like, super excited about
it. I've probably given out a dozen, and it's hard for us to keep them updated, right? Like
yeah. Yeah, and especially in internet marketing, there's just so many platforms and systems that have to communicate to each other now, and it continues to grow, so it continues to be a problem, right? Yep. My answer to this is very annoying and meta, which is that like I think taking a step back and going back to the customer avatars solves so many of these problems, right? Like and it's just such a trope now, and when you're building a business and startups and everything around dog fooding and being your own customer and things like that, but it's so true. And the thing is like we were our own customer, right? Like I've been doing search engine optimization for 10 years. I've been running ClickMinded for a while. I'm obsessed with digital marketing and I love digital marketing. And so when we went to go create our SOP library, it was incredibly obvious what the first 55 should have been, right? And so if users are sitting here listening, okay, like what are the assets I can give to my customer base? Being your own customer is incredibly important. If you're not your own customer, making sure someone arm's length from you is a customer is also important, whether that's a co-founder, a spouse, a best friend, a roommate, but someone who who you are solving this problem for. This was such a huge problem I had with other businesses I tried and started, was I had no idea what the actual problems were of my customers. Like I was more obsessed with the market size and the revenue and the money and that kind of stuff. And I didn't actually care about the users' problems. And that's a huge long-term problem because you miss things. You don't understand what actually
100%.
are their problems, right? And so if your users are listening and they're thinking about what are the assets I can give my users, hopefully you are the customer avatar. If not, hopefully it's someone near you. And the first kind of 50 should be like very obvious, right?
Yeah. So I think in my example, I guess to give a little perspective, right? So if it's like an agency that's working with roofing companies, right? They have their SOPs that they've built out internally. Now they want to make an approach like you to give away the 98%, right? So they know what's important, but ultimately, to your point, they don't really understand their avatar.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Right? They aren't their avatar. They figured out the system and process. They figured out how to make the market work from a marketing standpoint, right? But what would be their next steps to make sure that they pick link-worthy assets, so to speak, or they pick good assets that make sense to their avatar?
Right.
Did you maybe interview the avatar, or what would your thought be?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. So speaking of interviews, and this is again another area where Eduardo, my co-founder, just blew me out of the water on this. Because I hated this process. He was formerly a content marketer at Teachable, the learning management system, and they were apparently incredible at really dialing in their customer avatar to the point of insanity. I mean, like, so, and we went through this process. We got on the phone with these brutal phone calls with our users, 45 minutes per user and like 20, 30, 40 users, right? And you just painstaking details down. First, the demographic data, like how old are you? How much do you make a year? How much college education do you have? Are you married? Do you have kids? Where do you live? And then like really getting into their personal life. Like, what do you do on weekends? Like, what are you doing? Like, why do you live where you live? What do you do with friends? What are you doing at work? What are your problems? You can, there's all kinds of things you can Google around for customer interviews, but yeah, I think really hammering your customer avatar and getting on the phone with them can be really helpful. This is like a dorky cliche kind of moment I had, but I was on the phone with an agency. One of our avatars are customer or consultants and agencies. And I thought the vast majority of what we were doing was help agencies grow revenue, right? And like help agencies get more clients. And I got on the phone with one guy who was a user, and they had enrolled in a bunch of different seats for his team. And the basic conclusion of the call was, I signed up so I don't have to train more of my entry-level employees because I want to spend more time with my son. And it just like blew my mind, right? It's like, it sounds dorky and cheesy and like Hallmark moment, but it's true. Like I thought we were doing this like very quantitative, like Excel doc, like total addressable market stuff. And no, our product was helping this guy spend more time with his son. And it's kind of interesting when you think of it that way, right? But I would have never happened if I didn't go deep into his problem. So really, the more meta takeaway on there is speed. We're selling speed to that guy, right? Not necessarily the Hallmark son moment, but we're selling speed. And that was actually counterintuitive to what I thought. I thought we were selling the process. I thought we were selling all this other stuff. It turns out he could have done it, but he didn't want to, and we were selling him speed. So yeah, long answer to that question. I think getting on the phone with really deep, comprehensive interviews can be very helpful.
All right, so we've talked a lot about systems, we've talked a lot about processes, we've talked a lot about automation, and we're just about to hit the top of the hour. So I want to be mindful and respectful of your time. This has been an awesome interview. Are there any other automation tools or processes or systems that you found helpful, maybe even not related to business?
Automation tools or processes, not even related to business. Let me think here. Yeah, just you mean like kind of life stuff?
Big high level stuff.
Yeah.
We've been zoomed in, zoom out for a second.
Yeah. I mean, I have dorky fun ones. One of the single biggest ones was LastPass for me.
We love dorky fun ones.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, just like LastPass centralizing logins for me was, oh, I will not ever admit to you how much time I spent like requesting forgot passwords and things like that, right?
Yep.
So that was a massive one for me. What are some other ones I had? Oh, just general stuff around Boomerang for Gmail and calendar
Yep.
reminders. Like I'm a big inbox zero guy, which is so a lot of your audience probably is as well.
Yep.
But the basic idea is like your inbox should be treated as a to-do list, and every single email you act on, you either do it right away, find a time to do it later, give someone else it to do, or delete it immediately, right? And but I also do this with family and friend stuff too. So like reminders to call mom, right? Like reminders for friends' birthdays. I really like this idea, and this is actually again a Ramit Sethi idea around people in general are so lazy, and you can. I really love this idea of like, and he does it. He does it when you're negotiating a raise at work. He does it when you're negotiating or applying for a new job. The idea is like things you can do that require upfront effort that pay in spades for years to come, right? So it's like setting up automations for your girlfriend's birthday for 10 years, right? Or like setting up not automating the gift, automating the reminder, right? Like something like that. Or yeah, in his example, he says over prepare for your interview. Like really kill it. Be better than 99% of people because that's going to pay your salary for 5 years, right? Those kinds of things. So I really love those like fixed cost, one-time investments up front that just pay forever. So yeah, like automating reminders, automating finances, these kind of one-time things that continue to pay back.
Awesome, man. All right. And last question, what's the one book that as you look at your business today at ClickMinded has made the biggest direct impact on the way that you do business?
Ooh. Actual business book or like kind of life philosophy book or like
wherever you can see a direct correlation in your business, right? So not like that book was good but I never got anything from it, right? Like it makes me happy but nothing changed in my business, right? Like that, I feel like on podcasts, like that's kind of the takeaway for most people is like feel good books but not so much did we get anything that directly correlated out the other side as a win for the business.
I see. So in that case, it's technically pitched as a course, but it's just a text course. So I would call that a book. It's just text. Andre Chaperone, Autoresponder Madness. Are you familiar with him? Yeah. So our copy is very much inspired by him. The basic idea is storytelling in your email marketing. And the way he does it is incredible. The basic format is tell stories that are interesting, that are human, and keep users wanting more every single email. All of our email marketing is designed around this, and it was incredibly helpful as a book.
Yeah, I definitely can see that it's a book. I mean, it's all text, you're right. And I definitely read it like a good book, picked it up and didn't drop it until I was done. So definitely a great book. Thanks, Andre. All right, man. Any last thoughts or places, I guess, that we could link up in the show notes for you that we can send people?
Yeah, we're at clickminded.com. On Twitter, I'm at Tommy Griffith. We just launched these free, they might be more beginner, intermediate level, but we just launched these free digital marketing and SEO strategy guides. We designed them like retro 8-bit Nintendo powers. And
I saw that.
Yeah. Did you ever play like Nintendo or Super Nintendo in the 90s?
Hell yeah, of course. Yeah.
Did you ever get those like Nintendo Power magazines that had like the cheat codes to get to the last level of Mario or anything like that?
Yeah. I mean, it looks just like it.
Right. Yes. We tried to go for those. I was obsessed with these things as a kid. I cannot believe I didn't have a girlfriend, right? But we designed these things to be like 8-bit strategy guides. So you can check them out. They're free.
Yeah, man, they're awesome. Okay, great. Yeah, we'll link up to those in the show notes as well. And man, I just want to say thank you for all the time. I'm sure everybody's going to love this interview, and we'll let you know once it goes live, man. Thanks so much.
Sweet. Joe, thanks a lot. Really appreciate it.
All right, man. Thanks so much. Have a good one. See you, Tommy.
I'll see you. Yeah, take it easy.